You are 30 years old. You earn $59,400 a year. You take home $3,683 a month. Your current expenses look like this, and the looking like this is important because the honesty of this list is the foundation everything else is built on. Rent, $1,100. Car payment, $340. Car insurance, $180. Phone, $85. Groceries, $380. Utilities, $120. Subscriptions you have normalized into fixed costs without a meeting being called, $94. Miscellaneous, the category that is never miscellaneous and is always higher than estimated, $280. Total monthly expenses, $2,579. Monthly surplus, $1,104. $1,104 a month is $13,248 a year. That is what you have to work with before the decision. After the decision, you are going to need significantly more than that, which means the decision is not just about where to put the money. It is about restructuring every other line in the budget until the money available for real estate is not $1,104 a month, but something closer to everything. Investing your entire salary into real estate for 5 years does not mean depositing your paycheck into a real estate account. It means engineering your life so that your housing, your transportation, your food, your social existence, every category of personal expenditure is either eliminated, reduced to its absolute functional minimum, or converted into a real estate asset that works for you while you live inside it. The decision has two parts, the financial part and the life part. Everyone who discusses this strategy discusses the financial part. Almost nobody discusses the life part with the honesty the life part deserves. This video discusses both, in that order. Because the life part is what determines whether the financial part ever gets executed. The life restructuring. What investing everything actually requires before year one begins. The rent line has to go, not reduced, eliminated. You cannot invest your entire salary into real estate while paying $1,100 a month to live in someone else's asset. The elimination of the rent line is the first and most important restructuring, and it has exactly one mechanism that works for someone at your income level. You buy a property you also live in. A duplex, a triplex, a small multifamily, something with additional units that generate rental income that offsets or eliminates your personal housing cost. The FHA loan requires 3.5% down on owner-occupied multifamily up to 4 units. On a $220,000 duplex in a secondary market that is $7,700 down, you have $13,248 in annual surplus. You have it in 13 months if you touch nothing else. You touch everything else. The car payment goes, not the car, the payment. You sell the car with the payment, absorb whatever gap exists between the loan balance and the sale price, and buy a $6,000 car with cash that is ugly and reliable and that you drive without embarrassment because the car you drive is not the metric you are optimizing for in this 5-year period. Eliminating the car payment frees $340 a month. The subscriptions, the $94 of normalized monthly exits, get audited with the ruthlessness of someone who has decided that the next 5 years have a specific financial purpose and that the purpose is not served by streaming services and app subscriptions and the gym membership used 4 times since January. The audit produces $71 in monthly savings. The phone bill moves to a prepaid carrier, $47 savings. The grocery line gets intentional without becoming miserable. Meal planning, seasonal produce, protein sources that are not the expensive ones. $380 becomes $280. The miscellaneous line gets examined for the first time with the specific attention of someone who understands that miscellaneous is where intentions go to die, and that the $280 has been covering expenditures that a 5-year commitment cannot accommodate. It becomes $150. The social life gets an honest conversation that you have with yourself before you have it with anyone else. The conversation is about what the next 5 years require and what they do not require, and whether the people in your life can receive the honest version of that conversation without it damaging the relationship. Some can, some cannot. The ones who cannot are a data point about the relationship that is worth having now rather than later. After all, restructuring your monthly expenses look like this. Car insurance on a paid-off vehicle, $140. Phone, $38. Groceries, $280. Utilities covered by the duplex once purchased, $0 personal portion. Miscellaneous, $150. Total monthly personal expenses after house hacking, $608. Monthly surplus available for real estate, $3,075. You did not increase your income. You restructured the life around the income you already had, and the restructuring produced a capital generation capacity nearly 3 times what existed before. That capacity is the engine. The next 5 years are what happens when the engine runs. Year 1, the duplex, the foundation laid in 12 months. Month 1 through month 4, you are still renting while you close on the duplex. The closing takes longer than expected. It always takes longer than expected. The FHA appraisal has conditions. The seller negotiates the conditions. The rate locks twice. The closing costs are $4,200, including the lender's origination fee and the prepaid interest, and the escrow deposits that the good faith estimate listed as estimated and that arrived at closing as actual. You close in month 4. The tenant in Unit 2 pays $980 a month on a lease that has 7 months remaining. Your effective housing cost, the mortgage payment minus the tenant's rent, is $340 a month. You have gone from $1,100 a month in rent to $340 a month in effective housing cost, while simultaneously building equity in an asset and beginning to develop the operational knowledge of a landlord that no amount of educational content replicates. Months 5 through 12, you live the landlord education. The water heater in Unit 2 fails in month 6. The replacement costs $1,100. The reserve account you funded at closing absorbs it without emergency. The reserve account was not optional and is not optional. A property operated without a reserve is a property waiting for a crisis. You treat the reserve as a non-negotiable line in the monthly budget, the way a mortgage payment is non-negotiable. The tenant's lease renews in month 11. You negotiate a $60 rent increase. The tenant accepts. The new rent is $1,040. Your effective housing cost is now $280. By the end of year 1, you have saved $31,200 in capital available for the next acquisition. 11 months of $3,075 minus the closing cost contribution and the water heater and a second maintenance item in month 9 that costs $340. The duplex has appreciated 4.1% in your market. The equity position, including down payment, closing costs, principal paydown, and appreciation, is $19,400. Year 1 produced $50,600 in combined capital accumulation and equity. You had $0 at the start. The math is working. The math working and the math feeling good are different experiences, and only one of them is happening right now. Year 2. When the strategy gets real, and so does the stress. You have $31,200 in liquid capital. The BRRRR strategy requires a distressed property, a hard money loan, a contractor, and a timeline that the hard money loan's interest rate enforces, with the reliability of a billing cycle that charges you money every day the renovation is not complete. You find the property in month 3 of year 2. 3-bedroom single family in a neighborhood your market research identified in year 1 as transitioning. The specific kind of transitioning where the demographic data and the infrastructure investment are pointing in the same direction, and the direction is up, but the current prices have not yet reflected the direction fully. The purchase price is $87,000. The after repair value is $148,000. The renovation budget is $34,000. The hard money loan covers 70% of the purchase price and 100% of the renovation budget. Your capital contribution is $26,100 for the down payment on the hard money loan, plus $6,000 in carrying costs, insurance, utilities, property taxes, hard money interest during the renovation period. Total capital at risk, $32,100. You have $31,200. You are $900 short. This is the moment that separates the people who figure it out from the people who have a plan that requires everything to be exactly right. You negotiate a $900 seller concession on a minor repair the inspection identified. The seller agrees. You close. The contractor starts. Week 3, the contractor finds a plumbing issue behind the walls that was not visible during the inspection, and that will cost $4,800 to address properly. The $4,800 is not in the budget. You have $3,100 remaining in liquid reserves. You put $3,100 toward the plumbing. You put $1,700 on a 0% promotional credit card you opened specifically for this contingency because you anticipated the contingency would arrive in some form, even if you could not anticipate its specific form. The renovation finishes in week 14, 2 weeks late. The delay costs $1,800 in additional hard money interest. The property rents in 11 days at $1,250 a month to a tenant whose screening process you have refined across the duplex experience into something that produces reliable tenants with the consistency of a process rather than the inconsistency of instinct. The refinance appraisal comes in at $141,000, not the $148,000 the model projected. $141,000. The 75% LTV refinance produces a loan of $105,750. The hard money payoff plus renovation costs plus carrying costs total $109,400. You left $3,650 in the deal. The property cash flows $190 a month after the refinanced mortgage, insurance, taxes, and property management. The cash-on-cash return on the $3,650 left in is 62%. You close the 0% credit card balance in month 2 of year 3 from the capital the salary restructuring continues to generate. The lesson from year 2 is not the BRRRR mechanics. The lesson is that the contingency is not a planning failure. It is a planning constant. Every deal you do for the rest of your investing life will have a version of the plumbing behind the wall. The version changes. The presence of it does not. The reserve and the flexibility and the creative problem solving when the reserve is not sufficient, that the mechanics do not capture. Year 3. The compounding starts. Compounding. And so does the exhaustion. You own 3 units generating $2,270 in gross monthly rent. The net after debt service, insurance, taxes, property management on the BRRRR, and reserves is $820 a month. You are still working the full-time job, you are still living in the duplex, you are still eating the meals you planned on Sunday, and driving the $6,000 car and declining the weekend trip that your friend group is organizing to a beach somewhere that costs money you have decided this season of life does not have. The declining is not comfortable. The declining is a continuous, low-grade renegotiation between what you are building and what you are missing while you build it, and the renegotiation does not have a clean resolution. You hold both simultaneously, and the holding is the actual work of year 3, not the deals. The holding of the tension between the present cost and the future return, without the future return being close enough to feel like compensation for the present cost. This is the year that most people who attempt the 5-year salary investment strategy quietly stop. Not with a dramatic decision, with a gradual re-normalization. The subscription comes back because it is only $14 a month. The dinner out happens because it was someone's birthday and you deserve something. The car upgrade gets researched because the $6,000 car needed a repair and the repair felt like a signal. Each renormalization is individually justifiable. Collectively, they erode the capital generation capacity that the restructuring produced, and the erosion is invisible until the end of the year, when the capital available for the next acquisition is $18,000 instead of $31,000. And the gap between those two numbers is the compounded cost of the renormalizations that each made sense individually. You do not renormalize. You do the second BRRRR in month 8 of year 3, using the $26,000 accumulated across 7 months of surplus. This one goes smoother, not smooth, smoother. The contractor is the same one from the first BRRRR, and the relationship has produced a trust that the first deal could not have, because the first deal was the audition. This BRRRR leaves $1,200 in the deal, cash flow of $240 a month. By the end of year 3, you own 5 units. Monthly gross rent is $3,520. Monthly net cash flow is $1,140. The portfolio's equity position is $67,000. The exhaustion is real. The $1,140 a month is real. They exist simultaneously, and neither cancels the other. Year 4, the inflection point. When the portfolio starts pulling its own weight. Something shifts in year 4 that the spreadsheet does not fully capture. The portfolio generates $1,140 a month in net cash flow. Your personal expenses after house hacking are $608 a month. For the first time, the portfolio income exceeds your personal expenses, not the job income. The portfolio income alone covers what it costs you to exist. You are not financially independent. You still need the job income to service the mortgage debt and fund the next acquisition and maintain the reserves and pay the taxes that rental income generates. But the psychological experience of the portfolio income exceeding the personal expense line is qualitatively different from every previous month of the 5-year period. And the difference is not quantitative, it is directional. The money is moving toward you now from something you built, rather than purely away from you toward something you owe. The direction change is the inflection point. You do one acquisition in year 4, not a BRRRR, a straight rental purchase, a small multifamily, 4 units in a stable working-class neighborhood that the market research says will produce reliable tenancy, rather than the appreciation upside of the transitioning neighborhoods. The 4-unit generates $3,600 in gross monthly rent and $680 in monthly net cash flow after all expenses. You used $41,000 in accumulated capital for the down payment and closing costs. The acquisition pushes the total portfolio to 9 units. Monthly gross rent is $7,120. Monthly net cash flow is $1,820. The job income is now almost entirely available for the next acquisition, rather than for personal expenses the portfolio is covering. The salary is finally being invested into real estate at the scale the strategy's name implies. The first 3 years were preparation. Year 4 is execution at the pace the preparation made possible. Year 5, what the numbers say and what they do not say. End of year 5, 12 units total across 5 properties. Monthly gross rent, $9,600. Monthly net cash flow, after all expenses including property management now covering all units, insurance, taxes, maintenance reserves, $2,940. Combined portfolio equity, $194,000. The $194,000 is the result of down payments totaling $67,000 across 5 years, principal paydown through tenant-paid mortgage service of $31,000, and appreciation across the portfolio of $96,000 at current market valuations. The $59,400 annual salary that the strategy's title says you invested, the actual invested portion across 5 years including down payments, renovation contributions, carrying costs, and reserve funding, totals $163,000. The return on that investment is $194,000 in equity, plus $2,940 in monthly cash flow that will continue indefinitely. The cash-on-cash return on year 5's cash flow against the capital deployed is 21.6%. The total return including equity accumulation is not a clean number, and anyone who gives you a clean number for a 5-year real estate investment that included BRRRRs and hard money loans and renovation overruns is giving you a number that serves a conclusion rather than a calculation. The honest number is this. You deployed $163,000 across 5 years, and you own assets generating $2,940 a month in net income on a portfolio worth $194,000 more than you owe on it. That is the financial result. The financial result is not the whole result. The whole result includes 5 years of driving a $6,000 car and eating planned meals and declining beach trips and having the specific conversation with the people in your life about what this period requires and watching some of them understand and watching some of them not understand and deciding that the ones who do not understand are not wrong about what you are missing. They are just optimizing for something different than what you are optimizing for. And the optimization is a choice, not a moral position, not evidence of superior discipline or inferior character. A choice about what the next decade looks like based on what the current 5 years produce. The 5 years produced $194,000 in equity and $2,940 a month in income, and a network of agents and lenders and contractors and property managers who will execute the next 5 years faster and better and with less friction than the first 5, because the first 5 years built the relationships, and the relationships are the infrastructure the second 5 years run on. The second 5 years will not require the same sacrifices. The portfolio will fund the next acquisitions from its own cash flow rather than from a restructured salary. The car can be upgraded, the beach trip can happen, the subscriptions can return. Not because the discipline is no longer required, because the discipline of the first 5 years built the machine, and the machine is now running, and the machine does not need the sacrifice that built it to continue doing what it was built to do. That is what investing your entire salary into real estate for 5 years actually produces. Not a retirement. Not financial dependence in the Instagram sense. A machine, running, generating income while you decide what to do with the decade the machine just purchased for you. Because the goal was never to invest the salary. The goal was never even to build the portfolio. The goal was to